stop. Before you pick up that blush brush this morning, before you do what you have been doing every single morning for years, the same placement, the same color, the same sweeping motion, I need you to look at what that blush is actually doing to your face. Not what you think it is doing. What it is actually doing. Blush has two jobs on a mature face. The first job is to add warmth, to replace the natural flush that skin loses as it ages. The second job is to create lift, to place color at points that draw the eye upward and create the impression of lifted facial structure. Every blush mistake on this countdown fails at one or both of these jobs. The blush that is doing its job correctly is almost invisible as blush. It reads as the skin's own warmth, the skin's own dimension, the skin's own health. The blush that is failing is visible as a cosmetic application. A stripe, a circle, a flat band of color that announces itself rather than serving the face. Getting blush right is one of the most face-transforming things a woman over 60 can do. The most aging blush mistake of all is the last one. Mistake number 5. Blush placed too low on the cheek. This is the most common blush placement error in the makeup routines of women over 60, and the one that most directly contributes to the impression of a face that is working downward rather than upward. Most women learn to apply blush at the apple of the cheek, the rounded part that puffs out when you smile, and to sweep it outward toward the temples from that point. At 60, the apple of the cheek sits lower on the face due to the natural downward migration of facial fat, and the same apple-to-temple placement now creates color at a point that emphasizes the middle to lower portion of the face rather than the upper cheek and cheekbone. The result is a blush placement that makes the face look rounder and heavier rather than lifted and defined. The fix is to place blush above the apple rather than on it. The specific placement that creates the most lifting effect on a face over 60 is the upper cheekbone. The bone itself, not the fleshy part below it. Swept gently from a point directly below the outer corner of the eye toward the temple and hairline. This placement catches the highest part of the face, creates a natural-looking diagonal that reads as lifted cheekbones, and draws the eye upward. Find the bone with your fingertip, the raised bony ridge below the outer eye, and place the blush on that structure. Find the point on the cheekbone where the bone catches the most natural light, where there is a subtle natural highlight on the cheekbone surface. That point is exactly where blush belongs on a face over 60. It is almost always higher than where most women have been placing it. When blush is placed at exactly that light-catching point, it enhances what the bone is already doing, adding warmth and dimension at the point the face is already presenting to the light. Mistake number 4. Blush color that is too cool or too muted for the skin. A blush in a cool tone. A mauve, a plum, a berry, a dusty rose with strong blue or purple undertones. Applied to the face of a woman over 60, adds a cool color at the exact point where the face most needs warmth. Mature skin has already lost its natural warm glow. A cool blush reinforces the absence of warmth rather than addressing it. The face looks more tired, more flat, and more gray under a cool blush than without any blush at all, which is the worst possible outcome for a product designed to add life to the face. The fix is warm. A blush in warm peach, warm coral, warm terracotta, or warm rose with golden undertones reflects warm light onto the adjacent skin and creates the impression of warmth that the skin is no longer generating on its own. The specific test: hold the blush near your face in natural light and look at the skin beside it. Warm blush makes the skin look slightly more alive and golden. Cool blush makes the skin look slightly more gray and tired. That 2-second test is more accurate than any color description. Specific warm shades that consistently work. Warm peach. Peachy tone with golden rather than pink base. Warm coral. Orange pink rather than blue pink. Warm terracotta. Reddish brown that reads as sun-kissed flush. If the blush name contains the word mauve, berry, or plum, check the undertone. If it contains peach, coral, or terracotta, it is almost certainly warm. Mistake number 3. The wrong blush product for the skin texture. Powder blush, the pressed or loose powder format most women have been using since they first discovered makeup, sits on the surface of mature skin in a way that is different from how it sits on younger skin. Mature skin has less natural oil, larger pores, and more texture. Fine lines, subtle creases, areas of dryness, and powder blush settles into those textures rather than sitting above them. The result is a blush application that can look patchy, dry, exaggerated at the creases, or simply sitting on top of the skin rather than looking like part of it. Cream blush and liquid blush solve this problem because they do not sit on the surface of the skin the way powder does. Applied with fingertips or a damp sponge and pressed into the skin rather than swept across its surface, cream and liquid blush integrate with the skin rather than sitting on top of it. They move with the skin. They look like part of the skin. On a face over 60, the shift from powder to cream or liquid blush is often the single most immediately noticeable improvement in the morning makeup routine. The specific application method matters. Fingers are better than brushes for cream blush on mature skin because the warmth of the fingertip slightly melts the cream and presses it into the skin. There is also a layering principle with cream blush that is specifically valuable for mature faces. Cream blush applied first, pressed into the skin with the fingertip, followed by a very light dusting of a warm powder blush in a similar or slightly deeper tone over the top. This technique, cream under powder, gives the warmth and integration of the cream with the slight longevity and definition of the powder. The result reads as more dimensional and more natural than either product alone. Mistake number 2. Blush that is too intense or too pigmented. This is the mistake most often made by women over 60 who are correctly trying to add color to a face that looks washed out, but who are adding more pigment than the face needs and creating an effect that is the opposite of natural. A face that reads as having a heavy stripe or circle of concentrated blush reads as a made-up face. And a face that looks heavily made up always reads as older than a face whose makeup is invisible as such. The irony is that the heavier the blush, the more it draws attention to the areas of the face that show age most visibly. The texture of the skin around the cheekbone, the fold lines adjacent to the blush area. The fix is to build blush intensity gradually from almost nothing, and to evaluate after each layer rather than applying in a single sweep of full intensity. One very light layer of cream blush, blended thoroughly, evaluated and then supplemented if needed with a second light layer, produces a result that reads as the skin's own warmth, rather than as applied color. This approach requires patience with the product, rather than confidence in the application. Stop well before the color reaches the intensity that feels correct in the mirror, because the intensity that feels correct in the mirror almost always reads as too heavy in social lighting. Most women apply makeup in bathroom lighting that is harsher and cooler than the lighting in which they will actually be seen. Bathroom lighting flattens and grays the face, making it look more washed out than it appears in natural or social lighting. The natural response is to add more blush, but the face is not seen in bathroom lighting. The solution is to apply blush in the most natural light available, near a window, and to make peace with the fact that it will look almost invisible in that natural light. In social lighting, it will look exactly right. And now, mistake number 1. The most aging blush mistake for women over 60. Mistake number 1. Applying blush in the same place and in the same way it was applied at 35. The blush routine most women over 60 are currently using was established at some point in their 30s or 40s, when the face was different, when the cheeks were higher, the skin more elastic, the natural flush more present. And that routine has been carried forward through the decades without systematic reassessment, because it felt correct when it was established, and it continues to feel correct because it is familiar. The face in the mirror at 60 is not the same face that established that routine. It is a different face with different texture, different coloring, different light-catching properties. The blush routine that serves this face is not the routine that served the face at 35. It is a routine that was built with the face at 60 in mind, with awareness of where the bone sits now, where the light catches now, where the color needs to go to create warmth and lift in the specific face that exists in the mirror today. The fix is to approach the morning mirror once with a genuinely open question. Where does this face need warmth and lift right now, with no reference to where it needed it 20 years ago? Start with the upper cheekbone. Notice where the light catches the face most favorably. Build from there. For women navigating grief, loss, or significant personal change, the morning makeup routine is often one of the last daily habits to change after a major life shift. The blush placed in the same spot every morning can feel like a thread connecting the present to a life that was fuller or less alone. That continuity is real and valid, but the face in the mirror deserves the blush that serves it as it is now. That is not a loss of continuity. That is an act of care for the specific woman looking back from the mirror today. Which of these 5 blush mistakes do you recognize in your own morning routine? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.